everyone. My name is Tamara Nambiar and I will be introducing Deepika Padukone. As a celebrity, the choices she made every day were subjected to public controversy and criticism. Nonetheless, she always managed to stay strong and poised. Her formula was, be authentic, be yourself. Deepika, I have a few questions for you. When I grew up, I wanted to become an artist, a scientist, and a singer. When I read your story, you were a great badminton player but chose to become an actor. How did you choose from an actor and a badminton player?
You know, the same way that you want to be an artist and a scientist? How do you feel? You can achieve both, right? You feel like if you set your heart on something, you can do that. And then you want to do something else and you can do that too. So honestly, when I was growing up, even before I realized, I started playing professional badminton. But it's when I was a teenager, I realized that maybe this is not something that I want to continue and pursue and play professionally. And every time I watched a movie, somehow I felt like that's where I belonged. So it's my gut that told me that I wanted to transition from being an athlete to being an actor. And then I followed my gut. You know what gut is? Like your instinct, like that voice inside you that tells you what is right and what is wrong. That.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How are you?
Let's hear your stories. Just continuing that same line of thought. If there is one.
You know, actually, I've been thinking about it. I'm like, great, I have like some time to think about my, moment or like an incident. But to be very honest, other than professionally, and even professionally, it's literally like, maybe like one or two things like pay scale. Other than that, I have to say that I've never really experienced it. But maybe now when I think about it, maybe it's the way that I was brought up. It never sort of, I didn't look at it through that lens ever. So maybe there have been instances where I have faced that sort of discrimination of male versus female, girl, boy. But maybe I just didn't register it because that's not the way. I've grown up in a family, there's just me and my sister, we're two girls. And we were never made to feel like we cannot accomplish something because we're girls. I started playing badminton at a very young age. Girls and boys traveled together, we played together, we stayed in dormitories together. We had the same issues of like not having toilets or not having, water to shower. So the issues in that sense have been the same. Again, maybe if I think of it, maybe the prize money that the guys got was a little more than what the girls get. Today in film, there's no lack of opportunity. Sure, in the kind of films that we've made, maybe say a couple of years ago, and the place of a woman in a film versus how those roles have changed today are very different. And of course the pay, which is again something that, I'd like to speak for myself and say that for myself, I think I've been able to bridge that gap in terms of what my male contemporaries are getting versus what I'm getting paid. There was a recent incident where a director offered us a film and said, creatively I liked it. And then it came to sort of talking about the monies. And I said, okay, so this is what I would charge. And it kind of went back and forth where he came back and said, actually, we won't be able to afford this because we have to accommodate the male, So I said, okay, then tata, goodbye, because I know my track record. I know what I'm worth. I know that his films haven't been doing as well as my films have been doing. So it made absolutely no sense. So I was okay to say no to that film, based on that one thing because I just thought it was unfair. And I'm ready today to take those steps or measures or decisions for myself because I'm going to be able to sleep peacefully at night. I don't think I'd be able to live with that sort of thought, knowing that I've been a part of a film, had the same sort of creative contribution, or bringing the same sort of value to a film, but being underpaid. I was not okay with that. So I think some of those instances, but I think broadly, I've never been made to feel less or not being able to achieve something because of being a woman.
If I may just say one thing here, since Deepika said that, we did a survey of women and successful women. And I also have just one sister. We're just two girls in the family. And strangely enough, they found where there were only daughters, the confidence level was different than when there were sons as well in those families, at least maybe a generation before. So that's interesting.
That's a great insight. Before we go to Aditi, there's a beautiful research. There's a beautiful research by Gina Davis about I forget what the technical term is, the extras in the movie. Over a span of about 800 Hollywood films, turns out that 90% of the background extras are male. So to your point of subconscious conditioning as to what one sees on screen and what goes on literally in the background. I thought it was a remarkable statistic which just goes unnoticed. What about you, Aditi?
मैं बताती हूँ discrimination के बारे में. Friends, it is so annoying. No, I tell you, I think it ties in with the, yes. It ties in with what we are sitting here today for, is that stand-up comedy to a very large extent is storytelling, is telling the truth about your life and telling sometimes an exaggerated truth about your life. And I realized that, when it came to lineups and stuff, people would be like, oh my God, you're really funny for a woman. I was like, yeah. But it makes you realize that women have to work triply hard for someone to be interested in their story. Like, I know that like a fellow comic once came and told me, तेरे को पता है ना, तेरे set में सब सुट्टा मारने जाते हैं. And I was like, really? What do I have to do? What do I have to do to follow up that guy before me who did like a round of terrible jokes, which everyone was like, हाँ, सच्ची, correct, औरत बहुत time लगाती कपड़े पहनने में. So correct, this man is telling some real truths of life out here. And then you go on stage and you're definitely saying things that people have never heard before. And actually that was one of the reasons I got into stand-up, was because I was like, I can't identify a narrative of where the woman is funny and not hideous. Like, otherwise they would be like, "Arey, why? And I was like, kyun? Why can't we be owners of our own stories, and why can't we take the center stage not as an object of attraction? I know that like corporate gigs, I still get like, "Arey, female comedian, shakal kaisi hai?" I was like, "Koi nahi pooch raha jokes kaise? Koi nahi pooch raha." And then honestly, I mean, I would like to say, Deepika, that I would have totally been like a Deepika Padukone myself. Not even remotely. But I like to eat.
Me too! Oops, I shouldn't be saying me too, but I just asked for samosas and they had none.
I will see you backstage by the snack plate.
With the chutney, mixing with the sweet chutney.
Where is this? Should they just bring these on? No, anyway. ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं.
Let's flip it around so that Deepika doesn't get enough time to think this time. And we'll keep it.
I'm very curious to see what these little chits are.
By the way, you guys are being judged. These are on a score of 1 to 10.
Is your wife saying you're terribly boring? Like
that I'm very used to. Yeah. The secret to my marriage's success, which is 17 years by the way.
Just say yes.
Yeah, exactly. Just say yes. Great conversation.
This mantra that all you men think like works. It's not a secret anymore.
My parents had the solution for this. My mom and dad are somewhere here. And I remember once I heard them argue when I was 10 or 12. And dad told my mom that, hey, listen, we're going to solve all the big problems. You guys can solve all the small issues, right? All the fiscal issues, the monetary issues, kids, tuition, education, etc. So my mom asked him, what the hell are you going to solve? And he said, well, us guys will get together and solve the Arab-Israeli conflict, the cure to cancer, which is what men do. Get together, have a couple of beers, talk philosophy. It's the Parisian attitude. You guys do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And get paid less, clearly. Yeah. Well, let's flip it around. So one of my favorite comedians, Chris Rock, made this comment that we live in a time and age.
I thought he was going to say you.
Yeah, I know. I was going to be like, come now, this me.
After this, you might bump it up a notch and get up to being
oh my
favorite,
God, so work here also.
Yeah, absolutely.
and
no
impress me.
So Chris Rock said, we live in a time and age where everything is so politically sensitive that the gig for a stand-up comedian is borderline pushing the envelope between the last bastion of free speech, right, and maintaining that professional ethic. And I can clearly see how lines can get blurred and things get taken out of context, etc. What's your stance on this, being in the profession?
I think actually political correctness is not the biggest danger to comedy. I think that, in fact, we have lived in a world where easy laughs have been derived from too much cruelty. And the fact that we are pushing back, the fact that the world is pushing back and saying this is not okay, that you can't, like if you're hurting somebody, you're perpetuating a very harmful stereotype, be better. And I mean, of course, we're all going to make mistakes on the way. We're all going to do terrible things. And I have said several and done several politically incorrect things that I sorely regret right now. But having said that, the push towards political correctness as the bastion of free speech, I really don't think it's a problem. And the truth is that because a lot of the narrative has been largely male, a lot of the narrative has been कि औरत को time लगता है कपड़े पहनने में, उसको driving नहीं आता है, oh no, wow. I'm like, in Saudi Arabia, women are not allowed to drive, so give us some time. Nobody's like, अरे मर्दों को साड़ी नहीं पहननी आती. Give them some time to learn. So it's sort of, I think that, in fact, if anything, not maybe curtailing voices, but giving mics or giving stories to people whose stories have not been heard before is going to actually lead us to a more inclusive and empathetic world. And women will actually feel, because I mean, I don't know, maybe women are more, somebody told me this recently, ki Aditi, yaar, sometimes you're a lot more cruel in real life than you are on stage. And I was like, you know what, it's true, because I feel terrified to sometimes say some really, really cruel, funny things, which I know my male friends will gas off with confidence and someone's throw money at them or whatever. But so I think that when you hear more empathetic stories, when you hear more kind and more inclusive stories, you just have a more empathetic, inclusive and kind world.
Got it. Thanks for that. Deepika's got to run after this. We'll continue the panel, but let me pose a question to you. And a fellow venture capitalist recently wrote about, I don't know if you guys have read this article, about the return of investment on any movie that has been made in 2018 over a budget of 50 crores. Have you read about this? It's fascinating. So every movie, this is the last question for Deepika. I'm getting all these cues. In 2018, all the movies...
Guys, are we under attack or something?
Yeah, I know. Now you know what I feel like.
Samosa taiyar hai.
So all movies made over a budget of 50 crores.
Over.
In 2018, there are many data points that were remarkable, including the extremely poor ROI on all movies made by the Khans, but leave that aside. I had to slip it in there. The top 5 movies, purely in terms of return on investments, of the top 5, 4 have been women-centric themes. That's saying something. And do you think this trend will continue, being in the industry? And I think it's pretty awesome that someone ran this analysis.
So,
just to give you numbers, so the return on investments on real estate in India was about 7%. The Khans returned 9%. Women-centric movies, the top 4 out of the 10, or the 5, sorry, returned well north of 25%. Yeah, which is remarkable. Be happy to share this link with you guys. But what do you think of this?
I think it's amazing, and I think, look, I think it's nice for us to say women-centric or female-centric at at a moment like this when we're talking about female role models. Having said that, when it comes to creativity, we need to look beyond female or male. It's about the film. If the film didn't work, it's okay. It's a different thing that the films that the Khans didn't work. But say there was a film like Andhadhun that was led by Ayushmann. So I think that it really boils down to the script itself. But yes, I see a trend, which is films that, you're right, films that are being led by women are doing much better. Also, we're in a place today where directors are changing roles, and that's unheard of. You have, if you have a script that sort of has a male protagonist, and suddenly directors are like, 1 second, let me just flip that, let me just make that a female protagonist, and then go to so-and-so with the film. So you hear of a film that was offered to a male actor like 2-3 years ago, and it's coming back to you now with a female protagonist, is a huge achievement, But as a creative person, I would not like to make this distinction of like, male-led and female-led and all of that. I would just say that I think great content is what is really working right now. And I think a lot of that has to go to the audience. They're ready for that. I don't think it matters today anymore who is in the movie. It really depends on the kind of story that's being told, how well the director's telling that story. So there's a lot of these factors also, I think, that are playing a very, very important role in, in the success of these films. It's not, I don't think you can blindly say, okay, so-and-so's in the film, so let's go and watch it. I think 2018 was a clear sort of,
watershed year.
On that, so you have to sort of, right from the promo, the posters, all of that, I think that the audience has that pulse. I think they know instantly from the minute that first trailer goes out, they know at that very moment whether they want to watch that film or not. Of course, there are films that may not be sort of trending right from the start, but then they release on that weekend and there's that word of mouth that sort of, helps elevate the film. But yes, I think gone are the days when you just had like a big star on a film poster and that film worked.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you. I don't know if you're going to, are you going to kidnap her? Yeah, you're going to kidnap Deepika? Okay.
I don't need my samosas.
So we're going to unveil the book at this point before Deepika leaves, and then get back to the panel. So let's have you guys steal the show. I'm going to step away for a second.
Thank you. Like a contestant on KBC, yeah. Woo! Thank you.
ओके सो रतु जी कैसा रहा आपका एक्सपीरियंस हमने देखा कन्वर्सेशन आपने ध्यान से सुना आप बताइए लाइफ का कोई ऐसा इंसिडेंट जब आपको ऐसा लगा कि हाँ मुझे क्या एक्टर बनने के लिए, नहीं बनने के लिए?
नहीं, आई थिंक जैसे दीपिका ने कहा दैट वी केम फ्रॉम अ फैमिली जहाँ पर गर्ल एंड बॉय में कोई डिफरेंस नहीं किया गया था. माई पेरेंट्स वर वेरी सपोर्टिव जब मैंने कहा कि मुझे एक्टर बनना है. इनफैक्ट माई मदर गेव अप हर जॉब ताकि वो मेरे साथ एक जगह से दूसरी जगह तक जा सके. ऑफ कोर्स प्रोटेक्टिव थे बिकॉज ये इंडस्ट्री उनको मालूम नहीं थी. तो मुझे अभी भी याद है फर्स्ट मीटिंग पे जाना था तो मॉम एंड डैड बोथ वेंट एंड टुक मी फॉर द फर्स्ट मीटिंग ऑफ माई मॉडलिंग असाइनमेंट. बट मैं लकी थी दैट माई पेरेंट्स वर वेरी वेरी सपोर्टिव. बट हैविंग सेड दैट ये बात हम लोग इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते दैट वर्ल्ड में एक डिफरेंस है. एंड आई थिंक वॉट वी आर कॉन्स्टेंटली वर्किंग टूवर्ड्स एज वीमेन हु आर in a position to is bridge that gap. तो हम हर तरफ से इम्पॉर्टेंट पर्सनैलिटीज़ चाहे वो एक्टर्स हों या स्पोर्ट्स में हों या राइटर्स हों, आई थिंक देयर एजेंडा इज़ टू गिव अक्रॉस द पावर वुमन डेफिनेशन एंड yeah, each one of us is trying to do that.
2019 स्टार्ट हो चुका है, हम
जी.
आपके कौन-कौन से अपकमिंग प्रोजेक्ट देखेंगे?
स्टार्टिंग विद दे दे प्यार दे. दे दे प्यार दे आएगी और अभी मर जावा की शूटिंग चल रही है. सो मर जावा विल बी समवेयर इन अक्टूबर एंड बाकी आई विल अनाउंस समथिंग सून अगैन. देयर इज सम इंटरेस्टिंग टॉक्स. और तमिल में 3 रिलीजेस हैं. अभी फरवरी में एक रिलीज़ है एंड देन अप्रैल में एक रिलीज़ है एंड एंड ऑफ द ईयर अनदर वन. एंड तेलुगु विल ऑल्सो हैव 2 फिल्म्स.
डेफिनेटली आपका शेड्यूल बहुत ही बिजी जाने वाला है.
हेलो.
क्योंकि आपका शेड्यूल बहुत ही बिजी जाने वाला है, लेकिन दे दे प्यार दे की अगर मैं बात करूँ बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग सब्जेक्ट है. आई थिंक शायद रोमांटिक होने वाली है फिल्म. या आप बताइए कि किस तरह की फिल्म होगी, क्या स्क्रिप्ट होगी और आपका
क्या स्क्रिप्ट होगी?
रोमांटिक होगी, डेफिनेटली रोमांटिक होगी.
जी, इट्स अ रोम कॉम. लव रंजन आफ्टर सोनू की टीटू इज he's producing this film and अकी सर ने डायरेक्ट की है. इट्स अ वेरी न्यू एज रोमांटिक कॉमेडी. मैं ज़्यादा डिटेल्स नहीं बता सकती अभी, बट ऑल आई कैन टेल यू इज़ दैट इट्स गोइंग टू बी एन अमेजिंग फिल्म फॉर एवरी फैमिली, लाइक एवरी एज ग्रुप टू वॉच. तबू मैम है उसमें, अजय सर हैं एंड मैं हूँ. अभी वो स्टोरी क्या है मैं नहीं बता सकती, पर बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग है एंड आई एम श्योर पीपल विल लाइक इट.
एक फिल्म आप जहाँ तक हमें पता है कि लाइक रिप्राइजिंग रोल ऑफ लेट एक्ट्रेस
श्रीदेवी जी. जी,
वो कब रिलीज होने वाली है?
फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑलरेडी रिलीज़ हो गया है जो अभी रिलीज़ हुआ है लास्ट वीक जनवरी में एंड इट्स गॉट अ वेरी वेरी गुड रिस्पॉन्स. बट बिकॉज माइन इज़ अ स्पेशल अपीयरेंस तो वो दोनों पार्ट्स में 2-3 सीन इधर हैं और थोड़ा बहुत, सो इट्स स्प्लिट बिटवीन बोथ द पार्ट्स एंड वी गॉट अ वेरी गुड रिस्पॉन्स एंड 1 Feb को सेकेंड पार्ट रिलीज़ होगा.
मुझे पूछने के लिए उसी में ऐड ऑन है कि अभी एक और फिल्म जैसे लोग उनका नाम लेके एक और फिल्म रिलीज कर दी, आपने सुना होगा उसके बारे में?
जी, श्रीदेवी बंगलो.
ये ठीक लग रहा है मतलब?
सी आई डोंट नो द डिटेल्स ऑफ इट. मैंने भी वही पढ़ा है जो ऑनलाइन ट्विटर पे आता है और आई डोंट थिंक आई शुड कमेंट ऑन इट कि अभी उसमें राइट्स थे या नहीं थे. आप मेरे को उतनी डिटेल्स मालूम नहीं है, सो आई नॉट लाइक टू कमेंट ऑन दैट.
नए साल में आप क्या कर दिखाना चाहिए?
जो मैं हर साल करती हूँ, काम और बहुत सारा काम. एंड आई जस्ट होप दैट लोगों को वो काम पसंद आए. थैंक यू.